Everyone at the Marriott ballroom saw the photos. All 217 employees of Whitfield Financial, plus their spouses, plus the board of directors who'd flown in from New York. They saw me in positions I can't even describe, with men who weren't my husband, doing things that made the HR director faint right into the punch bowl. The sound she made when she hit that crystal bowl, a sort of wet crash followed by gasps and her husband's panicked shout, that's what I hear when I close my eyes now. That and the clicking of phone cameras, dozens of them, capturing my humiliation for posterity. By tomorrow morning, I'll be viral. The woman whose husband exposed her affairs at the company party. The screenshots are probably already on Reddit. My hands won't stop shaking. I've been trying to light this cigarette for 5 minutes. Since when do I even smoke? But my fingers fumble with the lighter like they belong to someone else. In the rear-view mirror, my makeup is destroyed. $400 worth of professional application, ruined by tears and sweat and shame. The lipstick I so carefully chose to match my dress is smeared across my cheek from where I tried to cover my face when the photos started. My husband Roger did that. Sweet, quiet, boring Roger, who I thought was too weak to ever stand up to me. The man I'd walked all over for 7 years just destroyed my life in front of everyone who matters in Omaha's financial sector. And he did it with a smile on his face. I'm sitting in my car in the parking garage now, unable to go back inside, unable to drive away. My phone won't stop buzzing. A relentless stream of messages I'm too afraid to read. My career is over. My marriage is over. My reputation is destroyed beyond repair. All because I underestimated the man I promised to honor and cherish. Roger was supposed to be predictable, safe, a doormat who'd never leave no matter what I did. That's why I married him, because I knew he'd never have the backbone to challenge me. I was wrong, so catastrophically wrong that I'm now the most infamous woman in Nebraska. Let me explain how I got here. Let me tell you how 7 years of affairs, lies, and treating my husband like furniture led to the most humiliating night of my life. I met Roger 8 years ago at a conference in Kansas City. He was presenting on risk management, stumbling over his words, sweating through his button-down shirt. I was there representing my company, bored out of my mind until I noticed how his hands shook when he tried to work the clicker for his slides. Nervous? I asked during the break, sliding up next to him at the coffee station. First big presentation, he admitted, adding too much sugar to his cup. I hate public speaking. You did fine, I lied. He'd been terrible, but he was also cute in that helpless way, like a puppy that needed training. Plus, I'd noticed his Rolex and the cut of his suit. Nervous or not, Roger had money. We talked through the break. He was a senior analyst at Whitfield Financial, recently promoted, clearly out of his depth in the corporate social scene. Perfect, I thought. Successful enough to provide the lifestyle I wanted, weak enough to control. Our relationship moved fast. I made sure of it. Within 6 months, we were engaged. Roger was smitten, constantly surprised that someone like me wanted someone like him. He showered me with gifts, trips, anything I wanted. All I had to do was exist in his life, and he acted like he'd won the lottery. I can't believe you said yes, he told me the night he proposed, actually crying as he slipped the 3-carat diamond on my finger. I'll spend the rest of my life making you happy, Natalie. I promise. He meant it. That was the thing about Roger. He always meant what he said. No games, no ulterior motives, just earnest devotion that I found both touching and pathetic. We got married a year later. Big wedding, country club reception, all paid for by his family. I played the blushing bride perfectly, knowing that once that ring was on my finger, I'd have the security I needed to live life on my terms. The affairs started 6 months into our marriage. Not because Roger wasn't good to me. He was perfect. Too perfect. He brought me flowers every Friday, planned elaborate date nights, constantly told me how beautiful I was. It was suffocating in its sweetness, like drowning in honey. The first Friday after our honeymoon, he showed up at my office with roses. Red ones, a full dozen, in front of all my coworkers. "For my beautiful wife," he announced, beaming like he'd won the lottery. My coworkers cooed and awed, telling me how lucky I was. But all I felt was trapped. This was my life now? Predictable flowers and public displays of devotion? Where was the mystery, the chase, the excitement? My first affair was with Carlos, my personal trainer. 24 years old, abs you could wash laundry on, and the kind of stamina Roger never had. It started innocently, lingering touches during stretches, compliments that went beyond professional encouragement. "Your husband's a lucky man," he said one day, his hands on my hips as he corrected my squat form. "He doesn't seem to think so," I replied, lying through my teeth. Roger thought I was a goddess. That was the problem. "Then he's blind," Carlos said, his hands sliding lower than necessary. We'd meet at his apartment after my sessions, spending hours doing things that had nothing to do with fitness. His place was a dump. Mattress on the floor, weights in the corner, protein shake bottles everywhere. But it felt dangerous, exciting, the opposite of my pristine suburban life with Roger. "What about your husband?" Carlos asked once, running his hand down my back. "What about him?" I laughed. "Roger thinks I'm at book club." And he did. Roger believed every lie I told him. Late nights at the office, weekend trips with the girls, sudden emergencies that required me to leave dinner. He never questioned any of it, just kissed me goodbye and told me to be safe. After Carlos came James from accounting. Then came David, who lived in our building, and then Paul, who I met at a bar during one of my fake girls' trips. Each affair was a thrill, a secret that made me feel powerful. I had this good, trusting husband at home and these exciting men on the side. Best of both worlds. My friends knew, of course. How could they not? I wasn't exactly discreet, showing up to lunch with hickeys Roger hadn't made, texting other men right in front of them. "You're playing with fire," my friend Sandra warned once. "Roger seems sweet, but everyone has a breaking point." "Roger," I laughed. "Please, the man apologizes when I bump into him. He's not going to do anything." "Maybe not," she said. "But karma has a way of catching up." I waved her off. Karma was for people who couldn't control their own lives. I had everything under control. The thing about Roger was that he made it so easy. He worked long hours, traveled frequently for business, and trusted me completely. When he was home, he was so grateful for any attention I gave him that he never noticed the signs, like when I came home with my dress on backwards after meeting Paul. Roger just smiled and said I looked beautiful. Or when I accidentally called him James during an intimate moment. He assumed he'd misheard. Or when he found men's cologne in my car that wasn't his brand. I told him I'd given a colleague a ride and he thanked me for being so helpful. It was almost insulting how oblivious he was. Part of me wanted him to catch me, to show some passion, some jealousy, some sign that he cared enough to fight. But he never did. He just loved me quietly, consistently, boring as wallpaper. By year 5, I wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. I'd take calls from other men while Roger sat in the same room, step out for emergencies in the middle of dinner, come home at 3 a.m. with flimsy excuses. He took it all with that same patient smile, maybe a slight furrow of concern, but nothing more. One night I came home at 4 a.m. after being with Paul. My hair was a mess, my dress was inside out, and I'd lost an earring somewhere in Paul's bed. Roger was sitting at the kitchen table, still in his work clothes, a cold cup of coffee in front of him. "I was worried," he said simply. "Your phone was off." "Battery died," I lied, not even trying to sound convincing. He stood up slowly, walked over to me. For a moment, I thought this was it. He'd finally confront me, finally show some backbone. Instead, he gently turned my dress right side out, his fingers careful not to touch my skin. "You should get some sleep," he said. "You have that presentation tomorrow." I stared at him, almost angry at his refusal to see what was right in front of him. "That's it? That's all you have to say?" What would you like me to say, Natalie? I don't know. Something. Anything. Ask me where I've been, who I've been with, why I smell like another man's cologne. He looked at me then with eyes that were too knowing, too calm. Would you tell me the truth if I asked? The question hung between us. We both knew the answer. I'm going to bed, I said finally. I'll be up in a bit. Just need to finish some work. But he didn't come to bed that night, or the next. That's when he started sleeping in the guest room, though he never made a big deal about it. Just quietly moved his things, like everything else in our marriage. No drama, no confrontation, just acceptance. You work so hard, he'd say, rubbing my feet after another fake late night at the office. I wish your boss wasn't so demanding. I'd murmur agreement while texting whoever I'd actually been with. Roger would fall asleep next to me, and I'd feel this strange mix of contempt and guilt. Mostly contempt. How could he be so weak, so willing to accept whatever crumbs I threw him? The worst part was how he talked about me to others. I'd overhear him on the phone with his mother, bragging about his amazing wife, telling colleagues how lucky he was, posting anniversary messages on Facebook that made me sound like a saint. 7 years with this incredible woman, he wrote last month. Every day I'm grateful she chose me. The comments poured in. What a beautiful couple. Relationship goals. You two are perfect together. I'd like the post and feel nothing but disdain. Perfect? We were a joke. I was sleeping with half of Omaha while he wrote poetry about my eyes. 2 weeks ago, everything changed. I'd been seeing someone new. Michael, a client from Roger's own company. The danger of it excited me. We'd meet in the parking garage, in empty conference rooms, once even in Roger's office while he was at lunch. It was my boldest affair yet, and the thrill was intoxicating. Last Tuesday, I told Roger I had a dentist appointment and met Michael at a hotel downtown. What I didn't know was that Roger had decided to surprise me with lunch after my appointment. He'd called the dentist to confirm the time so he could pick me up. There was no appointment, of course. I don't know exactly how he found me. Maybe he tracked my phone. Maybe the hotel clerk recognized me from the company parties. Maybe it was just terrible luck. But when Michael and I walked out of that hotel room, Roger was standing in the hallway. The look on his face is burned into my memory. Not anger, not hurt, but something worse. Complete absence of surprise, like he'd been expecting this moment for years. Roger, I gasped, my mind racing for explanations. This isn't... Save it, he said quietly. His voice was calm, controlled. Nothing like the nervous man who'd fumbled his presentation 8 years ago. Hello, Michael. Enjoying your lunch meeting with my wife? Michael went pale. He muttered something about a misunderstanding and practically ran for the elevator. Coward. Roger, let me explain. No need. I've been documenting everything for 2 years, Natalie. This is just the final piece. Documenting? My blood went cold. What are you talking about? Did you really think I was that stupid? He pulled out his phone, swiped through something. Carlos, James, David, Paul, Michael. I have photos, texts, credit card records, hotel receipts. 2 years of evidence. You've been spying on me? No, I've been protecting myself. There's a difference. He put his phone away. The company party is Saturday. I'll see you there. Roger, wait! But he was already walking away. No yelling, no drama, just calm purpose that scared me more than any rage would have. I spent the next 4 days in panic mode. Roger came home that night like nothing had happened. Ate dinner, watched TV, went to bed. But he didn't touch me, didn't kiss me goodnight, just existed in the same space with Arctic politeness. About Saturday, I started multiple times. Wouldn't miss it, he'd say. I have a presentation prepared. A presentation. My husband, who hated public speaking, had prepared a presentation. I tried everything. Tears, apologies, seduction. Nothing worked. Roger just smiled that same patient smile and went about his routine. It was like living with a ghost who was counting down to something terrible. Saturday arrived with the inevitability of an execution date. The company party was Whitfield's biggest event of the year. Black tie, open bar, everyone who was anyone in Omaha's financial world would be there. I wore my best dress, hoping to remind Roger what he'd be losing if he left me. "You look beautiful," he said as we got in the car. "Perfect for the occasion." Something in his tone made my skin crawl, but I pushed through. Maybe he'd calmed down. Maybe he'd realized divorce would be too messy, too expensive. Maybe we could work through this like adults. The Marriott ballroom was packed. Roger worked the room like I'd never seen him before, shaking hands, making small talk, completely at ease. Where was my nervous, awkward husband? "You seem different tonight," his boss commented. "More confident." "Just ready to share something important," Roger replied, glancing at me. "Life-changing, really?" The program started after dinner. Awards, speeches, the usual corporate backpatting. Then the CEO announced a special presentation. "Roger Coleman has asked to share something with us tonight." "Roger?" My husband walked to the stage with steady steps. No nervousness, no stuttering. He connected his laptop to the projection system with practiced ease. "Good evening, everyone. I wanted to take a moment to publicly thank my wife, Natalie." Relief flooded through me. He was going to forgive me. Make some grand gesture about love conquering all. I smiled and waved as people applauded. "7 years ago, Natalie changed my life," Roger continued. "She showed me exactly what kind of man I didn't want to be." The applause faltered. "You see, I used to be weak, trusting to the point of stupidity, the kind of man who believed his wife when she said she was at book club." The first photo appeared on the screen. Me and Carlos entering his apartment building. The timestamp showed a Tuesday night when I'd claimed to be at book club. Or at the dentist. Another photo. Me and Michael at the hotel, his hand on my lower back. The murmur through the crowd was growing louder. Or working late. Photo after photo filled the screen. Me with James in the parking garage. Me with David in our building's gym after hours. Me with Paul at a restaurant 2 towns over. Each image time-stamped, geotagged, undeniable. For 5 years, I've known about every affair, every lie, every time she came home smelling like another man's cologne and told me she'd been at the office. The crowd was in uproar now. People gasping, whispering, pulling out phones to record. I sat frozen, unable to move, unable to breathe. "But the photos aren't the worst part," Roger said, clicking to the next slide. Text messages filled the screen. My messages. "Roger is working late again, free until midnight." He believed the conference excuse. This man would believe anything. Sometimes I wonder if he knows and just doesn't care. He's that pathetic. Each message was worse than the last. My cruel words about the man who loved me displayed for everyone to see. My contempt, my mockery, my complete disrespect laid bare. "I stayed for 2 more years after discovering the affairs," Roger said, his voice still perfectly calm. "Not because I was weak, but because I was building this case. Documenting everything, preparing for tonight." He clicked again. Financial records appeared. Credit card charges at hotels, expensive dinners, gifts I'd bought for other men with our joint account. $37,000. That's how much of our money Natalie spent on her affairs. $37,000 stolen from our joint future to fund her betrayals. The HR director. That's when she fainted. Just toppled backwards into the punch bowl while her husband tried to catch her. The chaos in the room was complete. People shouting, recording, staring at me with disgust and fascination. "Why?" someone yelled from the crowd. "Why stay if you knew?" Roger smiled then. A real smile, not the patient one I knew so well. "Because I wanted everyone to see exactly who Natalie Coleman really is." In private, she could spin stories, play the victim, claim I was controlling or abusive. But here, with evidence? Here, the truth is undeniable. He clicked one last time. Divorce papers appeared on the screen, already filed, with my signature forged from the many documents I'd signed without reading. "The divorce was finalized yesterday. I've already moved out. The house is hers. She'll need somewhere to live since I doubt she'll be welcome at many places after tonight. Consider this my farewell to Whitfield Financial. I've accepted a position in Austin with a company that values integrity as much as competence." He clicked one more time. A photo appeared. Roger with a woman I didn't recognize. Pretty, professional, smiling at him like he was something special. They were at what looked like a conference, both wearing name tags. The photo was dated 3 months ago. "This is Sarah," Roger said, his voice warming for the first time all night. "We met at a financial planning seminar in Dallas." She knows everything. About Natalie, about tonight, about why I stayed. She's been incredibly supportive. Turns out there are women who value loyalty and kindness over excitement and drama. Who would have thought? The sound that escaped my throat was inhuman. He'd moved on. While I was still sneaking around thinking I had him trapped, he'd been building a new life. The patient smile hadn't been weakness. It had been pity. He'd been looking at me the way you look at a condemned prisoner who doesn't know their execution date. The room erupted. Security moved toward the stage, unsure whether to stop him or protect him. The CEO was screaming something about lawsuits. The board members were huddled in conference, phones pressed to their ears. Roger calmly disconnected his laptop and walked through the chaos directly to me. "7 years ago, you thought you'd found the perfect doormat," he said quietly, "just for me. Someone too weak to ever leave, too pathetic to ever fight back. Congratulations, Natalie. You created exactly the man you feared most, one with nothing left to lose and everything to gain by telling the truth." He leaned in closer, and I could smell his cologne, the same one he'd worn for years, that I'd mocked as boring and predictable. "Sarah's waiting outside. We're driving to Austin tonight. Your things are in storage unit 47B on Dodge Street. The code is your birthday. I figured you'd remember that." He left then, walking out of the ballroom with his head high, while 200 people stared at me like I was a zoo animal. The presentation still glowed on the screen, my sins displayed in high definition. That was 3 hours ago, and I've been sitting here ever since, watching people leave the party in scandalized clusters. My phone has hundreds of notifications I can't bring myself to read. Emails, texts, voicemails, probably all telling me what a horrible person I am, as if I don't already know. I finally work up the courage to check one message. It's from my boss. Former boss, I suppose. "Your employment has been terminated effective immediately. Security will escort you to collect your belongings Monday at 9 a.m. Do not attempt to enter the building before then." Another from my mother. "Natalie Marie Coleman, what have you done?" Mrs. Patterson just sent me a video. A video of my daughter's affairs being shown like a slideshow. "Your father had to take nitroglycerin. Call me immediately." One from Sandra. "I tried to warn you." Good luck with everything. Even my allies are abandoning ship. I scroll through more messages, each one worse than the last. Death threats from strangers. Interview requests from gossip bloggers. A message from someone claiming to be a divorce attorney offering to represent Roger's interests in the inevitable civil suit. Civil suit? Can he sue me for the affairs? For the money I spent? My hands shake harder as I realize I have no idea what's in those divorce papers I'd signed without reading, like everything else Roger ever handed me. Roger played the long game, 2 years of pretending not to know while he gathered evidence, 2 years of patient smiles while he planned my complete destruction. He didn't just want to divorce me. He wanted to destroy me, and he succeeded. Tomorrow, everyone at every financial firm in Omaha will know about this. The presentations, the photos, the messages, they'll spread through the industry like wildfire. My career is over. My reputation is destroyed. My friends will distance themselves. All because I underestimated quiet, boring Roger. He was never weak. He was patient. He was strategic. He was building a case that would ensure I couldn't lie my way out, couldn't spin the narrative, couldn't play the victim. He gave me enough rope to hang myself and then kicked the chair out from under me in front of everyone who mattered. The parking garage is almost empty now. I should go home. To the house Roger left me, paid for with money I don't have, filled with memories of a marriage I destroyed. But I can't move. Can't face the empty rooms where Roger used to wait for me with his patient smile and forgiving heart. I thought he was a doormat. Turns out he was a time bomb, and I'd been pulling wires for 7 years without realizing it. When he finally exploded, he made sure the blast radius included everyone in my professional and social circles. My phone rings. An unknown number, but I answer anyway. "Natalie? It's Michael. I just wanted to say..." I hang up. There's nothing he can say that matters. None of them matter. Carlos, James, David, Paul, Michael, they were just symptoms of the real problem. My complete inability to value what I had. Roger loved me. Actually loved me. Not my body or my face or the thrill of the forbidden, but me. And I treated that love like garbage, assuming it would always be there no matter how badly I behaved. Now he's driving to Austin to start a new life while I sit in a parking garage, professionally and socially radioactive. He didn't yell or threaten or make dramatic declarations. He just calmly, methodically ensured that everyone would know exactly who I was and what I'd done. The security guard knocks on my window. "Ma'am?" "Building's closing. You need to leave." I nod and start my car. Time to go home to my empty house, my empty life, my empty future. Roger won't be there with his patient smile and foot rubs and constant forgiveness. No one will be there. That's what I earned with 7 years of lies and betrayal. Exactly what I deserve. Nothing. As I drive through the empty streets of Omaha, I think about Roger in Austin, starting fresh with his newfound confidence and clear conscience. He'll find someone who appreciates his kindness, his stability, his quiet strength. Someone who sees a patient smile as a gift, not a weakness. And me? I'll be the cautionary tale whispered about at industry events. The woman who had a devoted husband and threw him away for cheap thrills. The woman who learned too late that the opposite of love isn't hate. It's evidence presented calmly at a company party. Roger wasn't a doormat. He was a man who, once that love was destroyed, was patient enough to wait 2 years for the perfect revenge. And when he finally took it, he made sure everyone would remember. Mission accomplished.